Hello everyone. Yeah, this is paper 3, psychology 9990. If you're new to my channel, please do well to subscribe. I really need your subscription. It's helping me a lot. All right. Okay, so let me dive straight into the matter. Yeah, we're going to look at paper 3, how to answer the question on paper 3 psychology. So for this paper, I'll be covering the abnormality. That's it's now clinical psychology. Okay, the clinical psychology and the organizational psychology part. So I hope to be as fast as possible. All right, this is actually a 1 hour 30 minutes paper, so I need to be fast with it. Okay. Um, Now clinical psychology. All right, so this paper is structured in a way that I can't really type in between. There is no space for answering, but I created a different um, answer booklet here where I will be typing the answers. All right, so let's move straight to it. Sarah is always thinking about germs. At work, she eats lunch alone as she believes that this will protect her colleagues. Okay, she always washes her hands for 15 minutes. Let me verify something. Is my okay? It's recorded. All right. Okay. So she always what was it again? Where was I? She always washes her hands for 15 minutes in very hot water. Okay. Now she feels better after this. But after 45 minutes, she wants to wash again. Now, when Sarah gets home, she washes her clothing, shoes, and coats. One day, when Sarah had sat next to a colleague, she could not sleep that night as she was convinced that he would get healed. All right. So she was worried now for the other person. Okay. The question is explain how Sarah meets the diagnostic criteria of OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. This is a total of 4 marks. All right. How does, yeah, we have to brainstorm here. Okay. How does she meet the criteria? Okay. First and foremost, what are the criteria of OCD? If you remember vividly. Okay. Now, Sarah, I believe. Sarah met the criteria of OCD. What are the criteria? There is obsession and then there is compulsion. Because she is obsessed with. What is she obsessed with now? Okay, she's always thinking. Now, obsession is basically having dominant and recurring thought about something. So she's obsessed or always thinking about it because she's having obsession. Okay, let me say obsession for okay germs. Okay, now I will explain further. This can be seen in her behavior as she is always okay, let me adjust this, as she is always thinking about germs. Okay, what else can we say about the obsession? Since it's 4 mark, I think I should get 2 good marks for the obsession part and then 2 good marks for the compulsion part. All right. So at work, she eats at lunch as she believes she will. Okay, she always washes her hands. She feels better. Okay, but after 45 minutes, she wants to wash again. Okay, when Sarah gets home, she washes her clothing. One day, okay. Mm, okay. Now, one other thing about disorder is that the disorder actually dominates your mind. Okay, although I'm unable to find anything about dominance there. I don't know, maybe I did not identify well anything about dominance, something dominating our mind. Is there anything that shows that okay, it's okay? Yeah, the fact that she could not sleep now. Okay, she could not sleep that night and she was convinced. Okay, also the fact that the thought, okay, also the thought dominated our mind to the point that it affected our sleep. All right. Yeah. So I think this should get me 2 marks already. Yeah. Even the first two sentences. Okay. The first two sentences should give me my 2 marks already. Okay. So let me move forward. In addition, now I'm moving to the compulsion now. In addition, she is having compulsion. Right? Compulsion. Compulsion to do what? To always wash her hands. Compulsion is the repetitive behavior. Okay. Okay. To wash her hands every 15 minutes. Compulsion of hand washing. Okay. This is seen as she always washes her hands after, or let me say every 15 minutes. Oh, please give me a few minutes, please. Let me attend to something. Okay. Yeah, this is as she washes her hands every 15 minutes. Okay. Uh, how can I make this visible? Oh, okay. I think this is better. All right. Every 15 minutes. Okay. Yeah, that should give me my full mark. But I think I would like to add something more. Okay. Also, the fact that she feels better after washing shows the impact and relationship between obsession and compulsion. Okay, good. What question is this? Question 1. All right, so moving forward. Question 2. What is the question outline? Or maybe I should not go straight into typing all the answers. I think, yeah, to save time. All right, outline what is meant by uh, determinism versus free will. Okay, what is determinism? Determinism, okay, Zim, what does it talk about? It basically talks about um, human behavior is predetermined by what? By external factors beyond our control. Okay, so that is determinism. You can now expatiate or explain it further. All right, they said explain what is meant by determinism versus free will. All right, then why free will on the other hand? Okay, why free will is what? Human behavior is a product of the choices we make and our interest. You can add that to it, something like that. All right, so I think I'm good with that. That's 2A. 2A. Now to 2B. Okay, explain one strength of applying the determinism side of the determinism. Okay, what is the strength of using determinism in these two sides when behaviors can already be predetermined and not by? Okay, well, one reality is that determinism is the only way to explain certain behavior. All right, because there are some behaviors that are controlled by external factors as that are against our wish. So the only way to explain them is determinism. Actually, is the true way to explain them. Okay, so the strength is its application to real world. Okay, it is the best way. It serves as the best way to explain the cause of certain behavior seen in people. Let's take for example oh, sorry about that. I had a call, so but I couldn't pick it. Okay, certain behaviors seen in humans. Okay, for example, um you know, why twins look alike. Okay, why twins look alike. um Looking at some examples of you know, OCD, for example, even, you know, um, although, yeah, serotonin might not give us the accurate data as regards the cost there, okay, but maybe something like the schizophrenia that we looked at when we spoke about genetical component being responsible for schizophrenic behavior. So we can give that as an example. So gene shows the cause of certain of schizophrenia, at least. So it's actually the best way to explain certain things by looking at the external factors that are beyond our control. Okay, so moving forward, but you can talk about many other things. You don't have to talk about application to real world. Actually, you can look at determinism actually establishes a cause and effect relationship. So, and that's a strength. Okay, so due to that, it solution, let me say effective solution to target what is the exact trigger to manage certain disorders. So that is good. All right. Olivia has a bipolar disorder and is receiving cognitive restructuring as therapy. Okay, in our first session, she said, my life used to be 100% perfect. I had an amazing job and friends. I stayed up one night to research an expensive holiday. Staying up one night to research just about holiday throughout. Wow. Recently, everything has changed. I am not working and have no energy. No one likes me. That looks like depression. Okay, not even my family, as I am not fun to be with. I have cancelled the holiday. Why does this keep happening to me? I feel amazing for a while and then it all changes and I am depressed again. Okay, now suggest how cognitive restructuring can help Olivia uh, with both a depressive and manic episode. Okay, depression, no one likes me. All right, manic, okay, 100% perfect, amazing friends, staying up at night. Okay, how can CBT, okay, cognitive restructuring, for depression? We looked at the explanation of depression. Or we look at Beck's triad, Beck's cognitive triad. We looked at that. We looked at the biochemical one. We looked at um, dopamine hypothesis, serotonin. You know, we also looked at learned helplessness. Okay, so in this situation, cognitive restructuring is actually Beck's cognitive restructuring. So he explains some triads or a particular triad there. So 3A, what does it talks about? So how can cognitive restructuring help? Now, CBT can help Olivia identify, okay, what is the cognitive triad? Okay, the cognitive triad that explains depression. Okay, for example, okay, it will, wait, they said cognitive restructuring. This is not just explanation, it's actually the solution, right? Yeah, this is the treatment. So what cognitive restructuring does is that it's CBT therapy. Okay, okay, yeah, I think I'm still right. Okay, cognitive restructuring can help Olivia identify cognitive, yeah, cognitive triad. Okay, let me check the question again. With both, yeah, with both depressive and manic episode. I need to include both. Okay, to understand the relationship, okay, between thoughts and thought and what thought and feelings. This session will enable um, challenge. This is another aspect of the CBT. Challenge thought. Okay, yeah, I won't be writing too much words. She gets to challenge her thought. Okay, after challenging her thought, she review She reviews the thought pattern in a real life situation. Okay, she can begin to review her thought pattern when it comes to okay, for example, we are looking at the depression now. For example, no one likes me, not even my family. For example, when feeling depressed about the about not having any of the family member liking her, she can begin to challenge her thought and apply a more constructive just after having gone through the understanding the relationship between our thought, identifying the triad, and then understanding the relationship between our thought and then our behavior, so that some of our behaviors are not necessarily the reality, but they are based on our thought process, not necessarily the reality. Okay. Okay. She can also understand that, okay, it is normal that few people, few or some people might not like her, but it is fine. Yeah, even if some people do not like you, it is actually fine. It's not a bad thing. But I'm not saying you should live, personally, I'm not saying you should live your life based on not showing care about your behavior that is actually bringing about hatred. No, you should actually be careful, but then it is still not a bad thing if some people really don't like you. Okay, so this is for the depression. Then for the mania, I can also uh, review her thoughts. Then she can begin to challenge her thought process, and also ensure that she um, try to review the real life scenario. Okay, it's one thing to sit down and have a one-on-one session. It's another one to identify the cognitive triad. It's another one to understand the relationship between the thought and the behavior. Okay, then it's another one to go into the real life situation. That's another pattern. CBT, you go into the real life context and then you begin to apply that thought and pattern to a real life situation, so that whenever those thoughts comes again, okay, those thoughts come again, like I said, for example, when feeling depressed about this thing come to our mind again, she can now begin to adjust. So for the mania as well, you can talk about the fact that when you start thinking that, okay, our life is perfect again, all right, she should understand that no one is actually perfect. All right, no one is actually perfect. Every human actually struggle with a few things in life, but it is only normal for us to be happy, and then we will keep living. So you can add that to it. Let me not dwell too much on that so I don't take a lot of time. Okay, explain one strength of using cognitive restructuring therapy with Olivia. Yeah, one good thing and easy technique with CBT, that's 3B, is that what? It When it comes to being costly or not, that is actually it is somehow CBT are mostly costly. So I don't really want to go with that. But some of my students might raise the point, what about it being cheap or something? So You can leave that out of it. But CBT, mostly there are no side effects. Okay, it does not. Okay, it does not have any side effect. So it is actually positive. CBT is positive. It teaches you to be positive, and also its application to real world is good because it actually teaches you to be able to apply the thing as tailored to um, your situation. So the CBT I can give to two people that are having depression might not be exactly the same thing. It might follow the same pattern, but might not be exactly the same thing because I'll try as much as possible to tailor it to the reality of each individual. So you can also talk about that as a strength. CBT is idiographic. What is idiographic? It's simply explain. If you remember very well, under the A level now we have nomothetic and idiographic. So nomothetic actually means gathering data that can be generalized across everybody. So it's like a quantitative data that you can use for everybody. It's like using a simple method for everyone. Okay, while idiographic is like using a specific method that is tailored to one single individual. You see, so something like a case study, for example, is a kind of research method that studies an individual and try to create maybe a solution for that single individual. You see, all right. So so CBT also can be geographic as it tries to consider the situation, the relevancies of the particular person, and try to prefer solution and treatment to that person. So that is one advantage, but you can talk about side effects as well. It's good. There are many things to talk about basically. Okay, now describe the behavioral explanation and the psychodynamic explanation of fear-related disorder. Hmm. The behavioral explanation for a that should be the um, behavior. That should be the Little Albert. Okay, by Watson and Rayner study, I believe. Watson and Rayner. Okay, the Little Albert experiment. So, what is the explanation of phobia? Phobia is caused by the association of a neutral stimulus and unconditioned stimulus. All right, I just hope that you remember this because I don't want to dwell so much on it. You can go through the study again to check that out to be sure and certain that you're on the same page. Now, the neutral stimulus is you can explain further what is a neutral stimulus, okay, what it does. Okay, for example, in the case of the Little Albert experiment, so the neutral stimulus, let me just call it the NS, is what is rat. Okay, and the unconditioned stimulus, okay, is the what, the loud noise. Okay, so now how does this happen? Now the behavioral explanation believes that we learn to fear certain things, objects, whatever you want to write, people, when we pair them with an unwanted, undesired, fearful experiences, etc. Okay, so this is the interpretation of the whole thing. All right, so you can explain it further depending on your knowledge of the study. All right, so Moving forward. Now, yeah, it is two explanation that was asked: the behavioral explanation and the psychodynamic explanation of fear-related disorder. Now, the psychodynamic explanation. Okay, so when I'm after the behavioral, okay, the psychodynamic explanation. What does it believe though? Let me just write it also. The psychodynamic explanation believes that, please don't mind my writing, I'm just trying to be fast. Phobia is caused when okay, now let me try to break this down, or let me try to brainstorm a little. Phobia is caused when there is um, when there is a desire that is not being met. Okay, when there is a desire and then that desire is not being met. Yeah, you might have a particular desire or cravings, but then when that desire is not being met, it leads to phobia. All right. When a desired, okay, we can say from the id that is being suppressed. Okay, when there is a desire from the id, the id is the one bringing the idea to your mind. Okay, do this, do that. All right, when there is a desire from the id that is being, okay, when people are worried with a particular behavior, or let me say thought, but it is being obstructed by something else, it can lead to fear. Now you can narrate the story of the little boy and the hands. All right, what does he want to do? The boy had fantasy. Okay, Hans had fantasies with his mother. Okay, but the father threatened to castrate him. Okay, so the thought of the boy that is being suppressed by the father is the reason he had phobia for the father, right? Okay, but in actual fact, it doesn't really have phobia for the father. It's been explained. Which, or let me say, he had phobia for the horse. Now, he actually had phobia for the horse, but Fred explained. Let me see, which Fred explained that it is actually the father he had phobia for. Okay, he connected the horse and the father together in his mind. Okay, so okay, so the Fred actually has gray hair just like the father. So that is why Fred believes that, okay, it is the image of the father that is replicated in the mind of the boy, making the boy have phobia for the horse. All right, so psychodynamic explanation is a bit crazy, okay? It brings about theories. Actually, this is the situation of the boy around his phallic stage, which Fred believes that, okay, I want to talk about a phallic stage. You're talking about a stage where there is a concentration on the genital organ. All right, so this particular stage, he believes that the boy was having what is known as Oedipus complex. So having fantasies for the mother, thinking that, okay, he eventually had, he was thinking that in his mind that he had children with his mother, and then his father is actually like his grandfather, something like that. So he had a lot of fantasies like that. So when the thought and the desire is being suppressed, then it can lead to fear. Okay, now evaluate the behavioral explanation of, and the psychodynamic explanation of fear-related disorder, including a discussion on longitudinal study. So you have to pick this one first, longitudinal study. Evaluation in your answer can include strength, weakness, discussion, issue, and debate. All right, so 4B. So what can we say about the boy here? Yeah, I mean, what can we say about the evaluation? So the longitudinal study, actually in the course book, I don't know, maybe I skipped it or I forgot. I don't really think they mentioned some things relating to longitudinal study, because the point is most of those studies are actually longer than they appear in the course book. So the course book itself might not be enough. In fact, it's not actually enough, but it should give you an understanding or an idea around it, so you can play and be tricky around some things anyway. But although that's really not the best way to go about things, but I'm just saying that in case you run out of points, you don't really know how to attempt the certain questions, or you feel at certain point that, okay, yeah, we never did this question in class, we never treat anything like this in class, okay, and you might even go back to check your course book and you won't find it there, but you can find it online, maybe in the original journal, which are way longer than what you see in your course book. All right, so for the evaluation of this, the longitudinal study, let's pick, for example, yeah, the psychodynamic. Now, the phallic stage, the psychodynamic is a longitudinal study. Okay, why did I say that? Now, Fred gathers information about the boy during his phallic stage, which usually lasts between 3 to 6 years. So these are the information around the boy's phallic stage that helps Fred to understand what are his fantasies during those stage. You know, what were his behavior like, to be able to fully understand the reason for his behavior. All right. So I've been able to mention a point here. I've been able to give an example of how that point is relevant to this study. All right, now, so I can explain further. This covers a long period of time and gave an in-depth analysis about the boy's behavior. Okay, it also covers data on the possibility of changes that can be observed during the stage in the boy. Okay, yeah, so now all this information is necessary to give an accurate data on the cause of the boys phobia. Please don't mind my writing. I don't want to take much time on the editing. So this is 1 point here. How many marks actually? This is 10 marks. So if it's 10 marks, you want to do 2 strength, 2 weaknesses. All right. So that is 1 strength. I've already mentioned the longitudinal study. So now I'm free to mention anything else I want. So also, what else can I say? There can be issue with what again? What can I say? It's a case study, right? So if it's a case study, it has low generalizability. Yeah. The psychodynamic and even the behavioral. The behavioral has low, I can pick anyone, generalizability. Okay. Yeah, I can say both the behavioral and psychodynamic have low generalizability. So they picked a single participant and then they study in depth. So there will be low generalizability. That might not explain the behavior of people out there. I mean, others out there, right? So you can talk about that. Now, what about issues and debates? That's where I think I like to write a lot. Issues and debate, very, very nice. Determinism and holistic. What can I say about that? Are they holistic? Is it holistic or is it deterministic? Okay. Yeah, let me look at another thing. Nature, nurture. Yeah. Psychodynamic is actually deterministic. Okay. Psycho is deterministic because it believes that that stage in life, when we are going through that stage in life, that the behavior we exhibit is actually the one that will predict if you're gonna have fear for something or not. Okay, another one just came into my mind. Oh, skip my mind again. Psychodynamic is deterministic. Psychodynamic is also reductionist. Yeah, reductionist. Okay, now it explains all the little hands phobia just based on the Oedipus complex that the boy was having. That is fantasy with the mother. That is the cause of it. I mean, that is too reductionist. Did you Fred failed to consider the possibility around maybe there is a particular thing about horse that the boy does not like. You know, there could be something about the horse that is not mentioned. You know, they didn't consider maybe that. You know, probably there's an aspect. You know, some people might just look at something and then they just feel disgust by looking at that thing, which I don't think Freud actually mentioned. So it's actually reductionist, believing that his phobia for horse is caused by that singular factor. Okay, there could be other things to consider. All right. Yeah. On the nurture side, the behavioral is support the nurture. How? Because it is learned. Phobia is learned, and it is not a natural thing. Okay, it is not a natural thing. as far as behavioral is concerned. Okay, but for the psychodynamic, I think it's more of nature and nurture. It's nature because we all go through that stage, which is the psychosexual stage. All right, that's the nurture part. I mean the nature part, but the nurture part of the little boy is experience. You know, we can go through. Some people can go through that stage, and eventually maybe they don't have mothers that they can have fantasy with. You understand? So probably they might not experience that. So there is an environmental aspect to that as well. Okay, so you can write paragraphs on all of this, such as the way I formed this first paragraph. You can form like 3 more paragraphs on any point that comes to your mind, and you'll be good with that question. So I think I can move on to the next one now. I'll be talking about the organizational psychology. All right. Okay, Fiba is the manager at an IT company. She has decided to monitor her employees while they work from home to improve their productivity on the task. Suggest one way that Fiba could monitor the productivity of the employee while they work. Okay, this is a suggestion. That's question 13, right? 13A. 13A. Okay. Fiba can use what? Now, if you remember very well, when we did the organizational psychology, one way to monitor is the electronic monitoring system. Okay, FIBA can use what? They use webcam. Webcam, and there was a particular video recorder that was placed, I think 1 meter at the back of the 1 meter away from the participant at their back, right? So, but you can just pick one to be on the safe side. So FIBA can use webcam to monitor the performance of the people. Okay, so the webcam can be what? The webcam can, yeah, webcam is webcam. So I don't think I need any more information on that. Okay, yeah, the webcam can be placed right in front of the screen, and then to capture maybe their face, just like we did in the study, to capture the face. Okay, webcam placed in front to capture what? The face, okay, of the employee while they work. Yeah, something like this. I think that should give me my 2 marks. Explain why the way you have given in part A would improve productivity. How are we sure it's going to improve productivity? Okay, it's going to improve. Okay, psychologists. I can't remember the names of the researchers, those that did the studies, but you know, in order to save myself from the stress of memorizing names that I'm not familiar with. Okay, now I can just say psychologists have discovered that employees who were monitored with webcam performed better in terms of concentration and what again? Okay, with reduced mistakes when compared to the control group. Okay, so what can I say about this now? Now this shows that webcam can improve the attention, okay, the concentration, which will enhance the productivity of the employee. Okay, Yeah, let me just leave it this way. That work. Okay. All right. Okay, moving forward. What's the next question? Now, outline what is meant by holism, including an example from the domain. Okay, what is holism? Holism. Okay. Let me see. Holism explains behavior by looking at what? Um, multiple factors that can cause. Yeah, am I giving the right definition? I'm actually bringing out definition from my thought and understanding around it, but I want to be sure that I'm using the right words. Okay, holism explains. Okay, holism believe. Okay, holism is a belief, IEF. What am I writing? That behavior can be explained by looking at multiple factors and the relationship between the factors. Please excuse me, I've been having this call ever since. Let me just speak it quickly. Oui, hello, Papa. Oui. Oui, hello, Papa. Oui, hello, Papa, je suis avec vous. Oui, je suis avec vous. Ok. Ah, donc, pardonnez, je ne sais pas si vous pouvez me donner un peu de temps. Comme je suis un peu dehors. Oui, je suis pas. Oui. Ah, ok. Ah, je sais pas. Peut-être si vous pouvez appeler Monsieur Samuel bien. Ah, ok. Ok. Ok, merci, papa. Pardonnez, hein. Okay, please, I'm very, very sorry about that. I had to pick the call. It's a parent. Okay. All right, where am I now? Where am I now? Yeah, yeah. So it's by looking at multiple factors and the relationship between these factors. Okay. In the behavior. Okay. In real. Okay. Which word do I use here now? Mhm. To explain the behavior. Okay, I think this is fine. All right. Um, Using an example from Thomas Kilman 5 concept. Okay, Thomas Kilman now. T K T K Thomas Kilman 5 conflict. Okay, TKC. Let me just put it that way. Thomas Kilman 5 conflict. Now, an example is that okay. It comprises of many methods for handling conflict. Okay, now, so conflict, let me say, they said example, e.g., we have compromise, no, competition. Competition is one. Another one is competition is where they have to fight, leave them to fight. Another one is compromise. Okay, another one is accommodation. You have to accommodate. Okay, this is an example. All right, it's fine. etc. So now each method can be effective for different conflicts. Okay, or can be used for different conflicts. All right, now the reason this is actually holistic is based on the fact that they do not use a singular factor to solve everything. I mean, every conflict. That would be reductionist. That would be reduced. It's a way of reducing conflict to be solved by a singular factor. But the fact that it can use multiple factors, different factors, okay, to be able to solve the conflict. All right, that is holistic. Okay, moving forward. Now, what is the weakness of using holism? Using an example of Thomas Kuhlman 5 conflict. What is the weakness for that? Okay, when something is too broad, it might be difficult to create a causal effect. Yeah, a causal effect. For example, you want to explain a boy having phobia, and then you're looking at the environment, you're looking at, okay, you're looking at the environment, you are looking at also the biological aspect. So it might be difficult to identify which factor actually is the most effective. You see, which factor is the most effective. So that is a problem. All right. Um, yeah. So which one do we go for here? Yeah. For Thomas Kuhlman now, it might be difficult to establish the actual or exact method of conflict that is most effective, because this one is not like an explanation, it's rather a treatment. Okay, so since it's a treatment, and then you are treating someone with many things at the same time, so you will not be able to identify which one is most effective, since you are not just using one, you see. So since it combines multiple, okay, like that, so it will not allow you to identify a particular one that will help to target a particular situation. Okay, and sometimes it might fail to, okay, yeah, it can also be broad. That's a weakness too. It can be too broad, too time consuming, or too difficult to apply it in a real situation, because it combines many methods rather than developing yourself around just a singular method. So you can talk about that as well. It's just a 2-mark question. Just pick a point and develop it. Right. Joseph works on a production line in a car factory. He forgot to use his eye protection during a shift and damaged his eyes. Explain the type of human error that was made. Okay, when it comes to error, we spoke about the 3 different types of error. Error of imprecision, Okay. There was actually low battery, so I have to move on from here. Okay. So where was I? Um, I describe what. Yeah, human error. Okay. So when we looked at human error, we spoke about error of commission, error of omission, and error of imprecision. So what human error was committed here? Okay, he forgot to use his eye protection during a shift and damaged his eye. Now he forgot something in the process of making decision. Actually, we looked at that under um, errors in group think when we look at group behavior and the likes. So I think omission, error of omission. You omitted something. Error of omission. You can check my other video to understand that. Okay, it's 1M. All right. So explain the type. Okay, now we have to give an explanation. This is because I don't need to write that long sentence. He forgot. Um, is it eye protection? He forgot to include his eye protection before engaging in his task. So this shows a particular element that is missing out, okay, in his decision making process. So you can use something like that. It should be fine. All right. So just one way the management and this car factory could avoid this type of human error. So if people are making kind of errors like that, so do you remember the study we did as regards reducing human error on the mining site? Okay, they used what? Token economy. Token economy can be used, okay, and given to people when they do what? When they commit less error. Can be given to people every month for complying with the safety precautions of the organization. All right, so you can develop this point. Token economy. All right, so you can now add this is effective, but it's not necessary. All right, they just said suggest a way. They didn't ask why we think the way can work, but you can add it to it if you want. So why we think it can work is because psychologists have discovered that token economy was able to reduce um, accidents at the pit mine that was studied long ago, years ago, long ago. So if token economy is that effective, then it's going to be effective to reduce this kind of error as well. All right, now for the way you suggested, are we on this? Yeah, for the way you suggested in part, explain one weakness of this way to avoid this type of human error. Why is that a weakness? Why could that be a weakness now? If they are going to use token economy, why would token economy be a weakness? Token economy can be a weakness as it can be expensive. Okay, token economy can be a bit expensive and failure to comply or failure, okay, and when there is consistency and lack of consistency can reduce its effectiveness. Okay. Expensive on the organization budget. Okay. Yeah, dependent. All right. So it's a logical question just for you to think around the method you have used. How can it be a weakness? Whatever method you've used, and you have to think about it. Okay. One weakness of this way to avoid this type of error. All right. So, and lack of consistency can reduce its effectiveness, making people repeat the error. Okay. Yeah, an idea also came to my mind that if you failure to give some people token, or you didn't identify effectively that they were able to maintain the safety precautions, all right, but they actually felt they did, all right, but then if you don't give them their token now, it can lead to what? Sabotage. Okay. Lead to Can lead to sabotage. Yeah, I'm just adding this to it to make it more meaningful. All right. Okay. Describe what psychologists have discovered about motivation to work, about Maslow's hierarchy of need, and McClelland theory of achievement. So this is two things you have to discuss. Now, Maslow's hierarchy of need. Maslow's hierarchy of need. Okay. It explains behavior on a scale. Okay. Let me see. Psychologists have discovered in accordance to Maslow's hierarchy of need that humans have several needs, starting from the base to the top. The base is the most important. Okay. And the level of importance reduces as it moves to the top. So that is one thing that was discovered. Also, what was discovered? The most important is what? The most important is the physiological need. Okay, that's the most important. Followed by what? Safety and security. Okay, followed by what? Relationship, social need, followed by what? Self-actualization is the last one, followed by, I've forgotten the fourth one. Okay, but you don't necessarily have to mention everything. Just put down the ones you remember. Okay, and then you can say etc. The last is the self-actualization. Okay, now the recent edition has included what? Cognitive need. Okay, cognitive need, fashion need, I believe fashion need if I'm not mistaken, fashion need, and transcendence. Okay, I explained all those things. Yeah. in my video on motivation to work. All right, so transcendence is another important element. um so what else can we say about Maslow's need? I think, yeah. So any other thing now? Okay, another important aspect is that um you have to satisfy a need before proceeding to the next. So that is a concept around it. So you satisfy the the basic ones before you move into the advanced ones. All right, so that is one concept about Maslow's hierarchy of need. Now the next one, which you have to describe as well, is actually 3 marks, so you don't really need to write up to that, but I'm just including it for explanation purpose. Now the Macleodian's theory of achievement. Okay, psychologists, you can repeat that. I've discovered, according to Macleland theory of achievement, that there are 3 types of human needs. Okay, need for power, need for affiliation, and need for achievement. Okay, this are separate needs that can describe the motives of each individuals. Okay, so there are separate motives that can describe the motives of each individuals. All right, I think that's the important thing around that. Okay, okay, please excuse me. Okay, yeah, I have to rush now. Okay, let me just. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, need for power, need for affiliation, and need for achievement. These are separate needs that can be described, that can describe the motives of each individual. All right, now this need can be identified through a, what's the name of that test? What's the name of that test? A subjective test. TAT. I've forgotten the full name, but that's the test is TAT, I believe. Yeah. Okay. I think thematic appreciation test, if I'm not mistaken. I want to guess. All right. So every other thing you remember about the need for achievement, okay, you can write it there. So I believe that explains it. So now evaluate what psychologists are studying motivation to work have discovered about Maslow's hierarchy of need. So those that are studying it, what have they discovered so far? All right. Maslow's hierarchy of need is actually good. Okay. Wait, they said that we can include strength, weaknesses, discussion, issues, and debate. All right. Did they give us any thing to talk about, including discussion on determinism versus free will? Okay, let's start with that. Okay, so Maslow's hierarchy of need. Okay, both are actually deterministic. Why? Because it explains an internal need that controls human, okay, human behavior. All right. So um, the psychological need, yeah, the psychological need, um, the security need and the likes. He believes that everyone, for example, the Maslow's hierarchy of need believes that everyone starts, everyone starts from the physiological need and move up the hierarchy. Okay. And then he believes that it is until we satisfy the physiological need before we move into the security. And so now that is deterministic, because you don't know if another person might choose not to follow that pattern. Okay. So also believing that humans are controlled by the need for power, need for achievement, need for affiliation. Okay, there might be other things that might control humans, right? So people might choose not to be interested in all of those. Some people might just want to live an isolated kind of life. All right, so there is free will. People can decide to. Some people can decide to live maybe a mediocrity pattern of lifestyle. All right, so it doesn't really explain. And also, people being motivated by need. Need might not motivate some people. All right, some people might not be motivated by needs as such, right? Or are we all motivated by needs? I've not actually thought about that so much, but I don't want to believe that everyone is motivated by need. Okay, some people might be motivated by other elements, other factors, but not necessarily because of their need. Okay, well, the need is actually broad though, so I can still find relationship with the need. Anyway, that's by the way. So we can talk about free will here. So, sorry, determinism here. Free will would have considered, since they said we should include a debate on free will and determinism, a free will approach. Here you can include an idea of your own. A free will approach would have considered the flexibilities around human needs. Okay, there are some people that might not have, let's say, maybe relationship need. Let's say, for example, someone that is being given birth to in the forest. I don't know. Maybe the person might not really have relationship needs. Okay, or maybe someone might not really have a security needs because he doesn't feel at any point in time that his things or himself need security. Some people might actually move from physiological needs to, okay, so it's there is a relationship based on what I said earlier. Some people might actually choose not to go through that pattern the way it is being explained. So a free will version or approach would have considered that there's other people might have um, different need pattern. For example, you can now include that um, need for safety and security is insecurity. Okay, so yeah, that is it. So what else can we talk about? We can talk about application to real world. Now, when it comes to organizational psychology, I always advise my student, and I said that severally in my videos as well, that application to real world is very, very, very important. So it is your way to go when it comes to organizational psychology always talk about that. Application to real world is Maslow's hierarchy of need easily can be easily applied to real world. Those that are studying it, yeah, it can be easily applied to real world. How? Okay, application to real world. Okay, it is easy to ensure, okay, the physiological need such as safety, sleep, no, physiological needs such as sleep, food. Okay, so now some organizations are making provision for what? Food, for sleep, maybe break time, okay, etc, 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 in order to uh, increase the productivity of the employee. So this makes applying it to real world easy. So that is a good thing about it. Employee. All right. So what can we say? Yeah, we already said it's a deterministic in a way to criticize it. So what else can we say? Yeah, it's also reductionist. Reductionist by believing that people are motivated by their need alone. That people are motivated by their needs alone. All right. So people are motivated uh, by can be motivated by other things. All right, not necessarily the need, the physiological, all those ones. Okay, some people can be motivated probably based on religious purposes. Okay, so aside even that, you can also consider the reality that they find themselves. So don't just believe that motivation is based on an internal thing. Motivation can also be based on the environment you find yourself. Okay, you can have a need, like for example, you want to pay your house rent, and then that need is actually motivating you to go to work. You can and then when you plan to go to work, you already plan that, okay, I'm going to have I'm going to work for 8 hours today. All right, so that is a need that is motivating you to work, right? But then on getting to work, you can actually find a different situation that will just discourage you, right? And then you don't want to work 8 hours anymore. So there are